Hey everyone, this is Jersey Streamer back with part 2 of the Rend tutorial. You'll notice I changed factions. That's simply because I got to the order base and realized somebody had already built some of the stuff there. So I didn't want to mess with all their stuff trying to give you guys a tutorial, so I swapped to Conclave, and I am now just going to progress from exactly where I left off in the last video. I have not made anything extra with the exception of a couple extra bandages. So you'll get to your faction's main base and see all these buildings lying around that say construction shop frame or hunter lodge frame, and over here is going to be the mystic frame. There's some other word in there, I can't remember. Mystic shrine frame, there we go. So those are the three structures that you're going to build the majority of the rest of your buildings and your progression out of. However, these 4 stones over here are the research stones. So each one is associated to a different tree of research. You have adventuring, construction, invention, and mysticism. This is where I'm going to go over the sparks of genius. So you'll see I have 17 sparks of genius mysticism and 16 sparks of genius adventuring. Those pair with the adventuring research obelisk and the mysticism research obelisk. Obviously the invention and construction ones I don't have any of yet, but I'll get them later. So I'm going to come over to the mysticism one and look at the different options here. So this is kind of up to your faction to decide what exactly you want to go after first. Personally, when it comes to the mysticism tree, I normally go potions, spirit stables, spirit materials. I stay away from repeaters mostly because I enjoy crossbows and regular bows better. I do like to get the lighting the way, and I do also not mind getting this, but you only need 3 to unlock this next tier, so I'm going to focus on potions, spirit stables, and spirit materials. The potions, pretty obvious, gives you access to all these potions. Spirit stables will unlock the requirements to be able to tame animals. And this right here is a little buff that gets you increased spirit residue, which is something I'm going to go over after I discuss all this research stuff. So, to research, you pick whatever tree, or whatever research you want to do, hit max to make sure you're spending as many of these as you can, and then click research. So you'll see it went up to 15%. For official servers, every 5 will only get you 1%. The rates on this server are 5 times, obviously, and that's just to compensate for the lack of 20 players per faction. So I've got 15% in there, and then I'm going to come over to the adventuring research tree, and I'm going to start with... So the leather armor ideally is probably better for what I want to do, but I do really like the way the cloth armor looks, and having hunting bows wouldn't be a bad thing either, so I'm going to actually start with hunting bows. So I'll go ahead and crank that up to 15%. And just to go over the other 2 trees real quick, here in the invention, I think honestly by far out of this first tier, crossbows is your best bet. Trap building and probably base reinforcement are my next 2 picks, though base reinforcement and spiked barricades are pretty interchangeable in my mind. Refinery improvements is good, but that doesn't really come into play until a little while later, so I'm not going to concern myself with that just yet. And again, these are all opinions. People definitely may disagree with me. In construction, the stash building and the base storage are both really important. A lot of people like to get the stash building first, but the stash building only can hold 6 things at a time. Granted, everyone has their own 6 slots, so like it's a way to keep people on official servers that are just like, oh, I'm going to steal this stuff and go use it on my own for my own stuff. It's a good way to keep them from doing that, but on a private server like I'm playing, where I know everyone that I'm playing with, I just go for base storage because these have a lot more slots. The one that I normally like to build right away is the Roughwood Trunk, and that's got 42 slots compared to 6. It's a lot more convenient and a lot less difficult to build. So when I get sparks of that, I'm going to hit the base storage here. This construction tree, this initial tier at least, is a very interesting tier to me. For the base storage, the ammo alternatives give you better versions of the ammo, and the Divinity Seed is what lets you build new structures out in the wilderness, which definitely talk to people in your faction about this before you go doing it if you're on an official server or you're new on a server. It's very resource intensive, and just remember, every single bit of resource you're using on your personal base is a resource you're not contributing to the faction as a whole. In most cases, obviously, if you have like a refinery point set up for people out in the wilderness, that's a different thing, but just discuss it with people before you go doing it. So now for the spirit residue. You'll see down here this little light blue bar. I actually have 2 spirits right now. If you come up to the tree and press F, it'll deposit souls and give you spirit residue. That one research I was talking about would amplify the amount you get. But how do you get spirits? So you take out any tool, and you'll see little wisps flying around. You just gotta find one, go up to it, and hit it. Though I think day is about to break, and they only come out at night, so we may not find any at the moment. I don't see any, which is probably because day is about to come. So there's another way to get spirits, which is, oh, there's a spirit right there. Oh, and night actually just fell. It wasn't day that was breaking, so go up to any tool, hold down left click. Some of them die in one shot like that. Some of them take more than one shot to kill. But you'll see just from hitting that once, I got 1 spirit there. This is like the main, I guess, currency for your faction. Collecting spirits is what gets you ultimately to victory. I'm not seeing any others. There's a chest over there, but you see that it's blue? That means that it's in the spirit world, and at this level I don't have any means to get into the spirit world unless there happened to be a portal like right next to it, but there's not, so there's really not anything I can do about it just yet. Here's another spirit. Let me see if this one lasts a little longer. And just make sure when you come up to these that you're holding left click. Even if they die in one shot, just pressing left click once and like repeatedly spamming it, for whatever reason, doesn't actually harvest them. I think it's just a little bit of a bug, which hopefully gets ironed out, but it's not too hard to deal with. So now that I've got 6 spirits, I run back to the tree and deposit those souls. You'll see I gain faction rep and more spirit residue, which looks like this. That's really important for crafting some of the higher tier items, and a lot of the taming stuff requires this as well. Alright, so the first thing you really want to worry about when you first get to your base, and this is assuming that this is a fresh start server or you've joined or created a private server that's brand new, is these buildings will not be constructed. You see, it says here all the resources you require to construct it. I need 300 roughwood logs, you can see in the center there. I need 100 crumblestone, 200 thin leather scraps, and this down here is just the option to deposit all 3, any amount of all 3 of these that I have on me already, instead of individually like placing them in. Like I have 31 roughwood logs right now, which you can see in the middle there. This would deposit that along with any crumblestone that I had, and along with any leather scraps that I had. So I'm going to go ahead and deposit those logs. It's kind of a toss-up. I recommend probably working on the Hunter's Lodge or the construction shop first. The Hunter's Lodge is good because it gives you access to better weapons, and the construction shop is good on its own because it gives you access to the like refineries and stuff that will be super helpful as you progress a little bit. So I need 100 crumblestone. I'm going to come out here and start mining some crumblestone. And you see that I just skilled up, which was indicated up here. Just to go over that real quick, you have all of these skills which apply to things you do in the world. In particular, I just skilled up in stone cutting, which means went from 0 to 1. If you click on these individual skills, you can see that you actually can unlock different little abilities as you level them up at level 5, 10, 25, and 50. It's the same for all of them, 5, 10, 25, 50. I definitely recommend taking your time to make decisions whenever you're doing these, because when the current build, you are locked into whatever you pick. And also, while we're discussing skills and abilities here, talents, you come here, and I have already selected Pathfinder just because I knew that's what I was going to do. And again, make sure you take your time to really think about what you want. I really tend towards the skill experience or just regular XP and the carry weight abilities. Obviously, everyone's going to be very different. You have 4 different classes you could choose from. The Pathfinder is kind of I wouldn't say a jack of all trades. They're really good at harvesting and carrying stuff. They have a lot of useful abilities for pets as well. Not taming them. Taming them is a specialization that probably could best be suited for the shaman, but they have abilities like increased movement speed and carry weight. I generally start out in this tree, though I don't pick the mastery because you can only have one mastery, and my favorite is actually the assassin. That's just what I like to do. So just a brief rundown. Pathfinder is kind of the resourcer and, mount friendly or pet friendly class, whereas Shaman is more of a ease of access to the spirit world and taming bonus type of thing. They also get some nifty little spells like a light spell, which is useful. Warlord is pretty self-explanatory, I think. They're like the upfront combat, I guess you could call them tank class, but they don't really have to spec into tanking. And Assassin is my favorite, which gives you stealth and some access to some cool abilities like poisoning, flares. The mastery I love, reducing reload time by 30% for my favorite weapon, which is the CROSSBOW, is super strong, and increasing the maximum range is also awesome if I manage to line up the shot from that far away. So you get 2 of these. Whenever you actually spend a point in one, it locks you into that. So like right now I still have this little change icon over the assassin. I can still change that because I don't have any points in it, but because I have put points into Pathfinder, I do not have that icon and it cannot change. So let's get back to mining some crumblestone here. And in this video I'm just going to run through building that first building there. I'm not going to bore everyone with watching me construct every one of the buildings. So, got enough crumblestone. Let's start getting some more logs. Remember to right click for logs. And just because there is watermelons right here, I'm going to have a little feast real quick. Alright, and my weight's getting a little high, so I'm going to hit this one last tree and then run back and deposit everything. So you notice my bar is actually full right now, even though I'm 6 under. You can actually go over your maximum weight a little bit before you start getting really bogged down. So I'm going to deposit all this. And let's see. So I need almost 200 more roughwood log and 200 thin scraps. What am I carrying that's so heavy? I still have more crumblestone on me, so I'm going to get rid of that. Dump it into this other structure right here. This way I have more free room in my weight. There we go. So obviously, you know, I'm doing this solo right now, just because no one's on this faction. Generally, it's a lot easier to coordinate with people and say, oh, okay, one person's going to go out and get the logs, one person's going to get the crumblestone, etc. It just makes things a lot easier, so you're not sitting here, you know, farming for days just to get things up and running. Especially on official servers without boosted rates. If you're solo, that would be awful. So I'm probably going to hit my max weight here. I'm going to make an attempt to get all 200 roughwood log and just slowly carry them back. So you'll see I'm pretty slow right now. I'm pretty sure 190 is roughly what I needed, so let's hope that's enough. And this is me sprinting. Right now I'm pretty significantly over my weight, but a little bit more and I wouldn't have been able to move at all. Okay, I need one more roughwood log, which isn't that bad, because that won't be weighing me down. And we need to worry about thin leather scraps, which means I've got to consider building a bow here, which thankfully I have enough twine for. I would highly suggest with these basic bows that you actually make 2 of them. They break super easy. They're not going to break as easy on this server because I've turned down the durability damage, but they do break super easy. And you'll notice I was crafting a simple bow and got flimsy bows instead. That's because I'm not skilled in creating that yet, so they're kind of like, I guess you could think of it as a critical failure instead of like a critical success. So that's enough roughwood log. I'm just going to cut this tree down. And then I'm actually going to gather some fiber real quick and try to make 2 more bows. See if I can get some actual simple ones. So with the sickle, to get fiber, right click on these plants. You can right click on any plant. I'm pretty sure it gets you raw fiber, except for the tier 2 variants of plants, which is definitely way later down the line. Alright, so now that I got that going, let's make 2 more fiber twine. And let's give a shot at 2 more bows. There we go. There's 1 simple bow. 2 simple bows. So you'll see flimsy bow, 3.5 physical damage per 0.67 seconds. And I got a whole, almost double damage from making the simple ones. So now I need to get a bunch of roughwood sticks so that I can make some arrows. This is left clicking on trees. Excuse all of the obnoxiously loud tree breaking noises. Alright. Now let's come here and let's just craft all the arrows we can. And as I craft these, you'll notice it says +3. Occasionally you get that big +6. That means I got a critical success and crafted double the amount of arrows. Just keep in mind that when you are crafting, you are super slow. So unless you're really prepared, I wouldn't bother fighting anything until you're done crafting. I'm just gonna meander about and get some of these spirits while I'm waiting for that to finish. And when you first take out your bow, it'll say 0 out of 0 for the ammo down here. You take out your bow by pressing E, or you take out your weapons, I should say, by pressing E, and you can hold E down to pick whichever one. Right now they're the same, so it doesn't really matter. But you see, you get this weirdness, this 0 at a 0. If you just right-click to aim, it kind of fixes itself, so just don't forget to do that. So now let's find some enemies. Well, first let me put in my talent points here. When you only have a simple bow, I suggest trying to find like a little level 2 grunter, or the gruntlings, which are the ones without the horns, or the tusks I should say. So you notice I'm doing more damage when I hit them in the head. That's because that's a critical spot for them, I should say. And you want to come out with the axe and right click on enemies to get the thin leather scraps, or leather of any kind is right clicking with an axe. You can use a sickle as well. Really haven't tested the efficiency of one versus the other, so I just kind of stick with the axe because I'm pretty sure that's what you're supposed to use. And with these boars, they're really not too bad because, as you saw, you can kind of outrun them. So if they start getting too close to you, just turn, sprint for a little bit, and you'll have put some distance between you and them, and you can shoot them from relative safety. What else do we got here? I guess I'll go after this guy. So he's getting a little close. I'm going to turn and run. Just make sure you don't run too far from where you engage them, or they will kind of give up the chase and, be unaggroable and run back to wherever they were. So this is a good opportunity. You'll see I got flesh wounds, which normally I would survive. As you could see, it's barely ticking down my health. But just as an example, I'm going to use my bandage here. So I'm going to hold 6. And you'll see that got rid of the flesh wounds. The flesh wounds aren't too bad to deal with unless your health is already low. It's the heavier version of that, I think it's heavy bleeding, that really causes problems. So let's see. You may be tempted to try to kill these rabbits because they look like the most peaceful little creatures there are out here, but they actually run away, which I'm just going to shoot one arrow at it. They run away, they're kind of fast, and then they burrow underground. They do pop back up, but the problem is, when you're not doing that much damage, they normally get far enough away from their spawn point to reset and run back, and you can't damage them while they're running back and stuff like that. So I stick to the boars for now. You notice as it gets closer, my damage increases a little bit. That's because when I was first shooting it, it was at close to the max range. See, that wolf just gave me its little warning howl. Oh. At this point, I could probably take it, but I really don't want to chance it. It may catch me and get in a bite or two. But whenever something chases you that you don't want to fight, run back towards your base, and as soon as you get within this shield, it may stand there for a second, but it can't get in, and it'll reset. And you'll see just an example. When it's resetting, I can't do damage to it. So how much leather do we have right now? 62. So let's go back to that boar. Hopefully this wolf will kind of wander off by the time we get there. What level is it? 5. Of course it's going to wander towards it. So I'm just going to walk in here and sit at the absolute edge that I can to farm it. No. Stop it. You see, I got out of its little aggro radius quick enough that time. Alright, there's another boar right there. Oh, that's actually a gruntling. Those run away from you. I didn't even really pay attention to what that was before I started shooting. So I'm just gonna kinda say screw that, go after this boar. Oh god. That wolf is coming after me, it seems like. Yep, it is. So I'm just gonna sprint over this way a bit and hopefully get it to reset before it bites me some more. This is honestly probably the best spot to hunt boar. There's far less, if any, wolves over here. And they're a little bit lower level. Okay, so the wolf reset. I'm gonna just let that flesh wounds run through its course. It's only got 43 more seconds left here. Actually, I think that timer's off because it seems like it's gonna decay a lot quicker. There are stupid little things like that in the game that you'll notice, like the timer being a little off. That obviously needs to be fixed, but, you know, it's early access, it's gonna have its problems. I'll take a timer that's off versus something truly game-breaking. And so these boars also have another weak point, which is like right at their butt. Right there. So every animal has some sort of weak point, it's just a matter of shooting it enough to figure it out where it is. Alright, let's try to take on this guy here. See how we're doing here. 170. Can't remember if we needed 250 or 200, so I'm gonna get up to 250 here before I end this. See, you can avoid almost all of the boar's damage if you just sprint when they get a little close to you. Alright, and so now that I've gotten a couple more levels, I'm going to go ahead and get Tangle Shot. If you're going Pathfinder, I highly recommend it. You know, this experience in action is pretty good, though Marathon Runner is also really good. And for the second tier, the reducing the fall speed by 80% is very situational. Don't get me wrong, it's certainly useful, but it's very situational. But I really liked Tangle Shot. It helps you deal with these low-level things. And for this tier, like I said, I skew towards the reducing weight, increasing max carry weight, and, you know, experience, so I'm definitely grabbing Pack Rat. You'll see now that I have Tangle Shot slotted up here, so I'm going to go ahead and use that on the next boar. So I'm going to hit 7, which is what I have it bound to, hit it, and you'll see that it is noticeably slower now. So whereas I normally would have probably had to run from that guy at some point when it got closer to me, I didn't. Alright. Kill this one and then I'll check how much we got again. Where did this thing go? There he is. So obviously you don't need to be like terrified of getting hit at all. Granted, I'm a little bit higher level than you will probably be because I'm already level 8 because of the server's rates. But you just be cognizant of, you know, having flesh wounds and how much health you have left and using your bandages and stuff like that. So what are we at? 267. Awesome. So also notice that my food and water are getting pretty low here, so I'm going to grab the sickle and chow down on some watermelons. And I'm just going to do this as a temporary thing. I am also going to show you the real solution here real quick. So let's kill one more boar. I think I may have dragged another boar into the fight. No, I didn't. So, break out your hatchet and left click this time on some boars. You see I'm getting tons of boar ribs and boar hooves. Just a note, the animal specific parts like boar hooves, boar tusks, wolf fangs, I'm not 100% sure on this, but from my experience, they seem a lot more likely to drop when you're left clicking on said animal. Right clicking almost exclusively gets you leather or like fur type items. Alright, so run back to the base now. Let's finish this building up real quick, and then we'll cook some food, and I'll wrap up the video. Alright, so there you go. You see this upgraded now. We now have access to this Adventurer's Workshop, which gives us access to all sorts of better weapons, and the ability to craft rough wood lumber, thin leather, leather straps, rough rope, and a bunch of other stuff that is just going to be super useful as we progress here. Now, the last thing I want to do before ending this is campfire. Need some crumble stone real quick. Alright, so I'm going to craft a campfire. And that'll automatically assign to the hotkey down here. So I'll break that out. Kind of position it over here by the tree a little bit. Now campfire up and running. And so what you want to do is, I don't know where that rough-wood log came from, but okay. So you want to put in some fuel. Logs have a fuel value of 10. Sticks, I believe, are a fuel value of 2, yes. And branches are 5. Branches are needed for a lot less recipes, so I'd probably recommend throwing them in first, but just because I have a bunch of extra logs, I'm just going to throw them in, and I'm going to drag this meat in here. Clicking the off button actually turns it on, so whatever button is here, like whatever button is showing, I should say, represents the state that it's actually in right now. So now that it is on, it will slowly cook some meat for me here. See, this is poorly cooked meat. Put that in a slot, eat some. And what I should have done was, I should have drank some water before I ran back down at that little pond. But I didn't. I'll do that here as I wrap up this video. But I'm going to finish up these buildings and obviously go get some water and progress a little bit here before I start up another video and kind of get into crafting a little bit, probably. I'll explain the skilled in requirements a little bit more, and I'll craft some better bows and stuff like that. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.